The Manzanar National Historic Site is one of 10 internment camps, also known as confinement camps, in the United States. It was a place where Japanese Americans were brought temporarily during World War II under the presidency of Franklin D. Roosevelt. These immigrants would be sent here and incarcerated because they were not eligible for citizenship. It is located in a small town called Manzanar at the bottom of the Sierra Nevada mountains and in the Owen Valley of California.
This historic site is best known for being in a Japanese internment camp, but before that, it was land that belonged to the Native Americans, specifically the Paiute tribe. And they would use this land for mainly, like, they'd live there. So, like, they would migrate around the land, or they would just have more permanent villages. And you can see that kind of, like, you can kind of see that right here. This is one of their villages. This is, like, their teepees and stuff. And, this would be in the Owens Valley, which is where this site is at. So, like many times in history, these natives were brought out of their land. They were kicked out. They were kicked out forcibly by the U.S. Army. The Army was sent to kick them out. And then the land would become farmland, and there would be, you can see a lot of the trees that were actually on this farmland there today. So, like, I think there's cherry and apple trees that still are on that land in the park today. So that's actually kind of interesting. But it was sold several times, and it was also the very last time it was sold before it became abandoned. It was known for irrigation purposes, and then it became abandoned. And then that very same year, the bombing of Pearl Harbor happened, and this land soon became a Japanese internment camp.
Back in the day, there was a lot of prejudice towards Asian American immigrants, especially after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The Manzanar has about 6,000 acres of land, and they were packed to full capacity, meaning people had to live in small, crowded rooms. About 8 people fit in one 20 by 25 room. These camps were very run down and exposed, and there was a lack of privacy. There were also towers around the camp where guards stood to make sure that no one entered or exited, and it was all surrounded by barbed wire. During the time in Manzanar, some people would work in the fields, make furniture, clothing manufacturing, and they earned about $8 to $19 per month. The park today is empty and no one lives there. Most of the structures have been removed. However, you may experience the way people lived back then if you explore the Block 14 exhibit, which includes the dining hall, women's latrine, and 2 living quarters. And in the visitor center, you can also do tours and learn about the Japanese. So it is very historically important because the site focuses on the Japanese immigrants that came to the U.S. during World War II. And the United States established this park because of the damage it caused to the Japanese during the Second World War. And this park serves as a memorial and honors the people who lived here and died here. As Congressman Mel Levine said, it is my hope that Manzanar will serve as a reminder of the grievous errors and inhumane policies. And we must ensure that this never happens again.
Economically significant / importance. It is complex. The Manzanar and 9 other camps like it were built with millions of dollars by the army and eventually the War of Relocation Authority, without even mentioning the lost productivity of the 120K plus personas detained behind the barbed wire. The economic cost to those who were forced from their homes and places of business were astounding.
So, a question we have is, why should we care about this? Why do we care? And I think one of the reasons why we should care is because, for starters, the victims deserve to be remembered. They deserve to be talked about. When something like this happens, they deserve to be acknowledged, and they deserve to be treated like humans who went through something very traumatizing, and they they just deserved better, and they deserve to have that acknowledgement, and they deserve to have their stories heard. They deserve to have their stories told. I think that's very important, and I'm glad that this park exists for that. These people were either forcibly kicked out of their land or they were forcefully brought to this land, and these are two groups who have been treated unfairly multiple times in history. Native Americans basically kicked out of their land, killed in war. There's just so many things with that. And then obviously Japanese Americans, they've been treated unfairly too. And I think it's just important that we acknowledge the trauma that they went through. Another important thing is so we can prevent something like this from happening again. And so one thing that really stuck out to me when I was interviewing Elisa Lynch, the park ranger at this park, she was amazing. But one thing that really stuck out to me when I asked the question, how can we prevent something like this from happening again? Her response, it was really, really short, but I think it was the most impactful question that I could have asked in that moment. She says, it's up to you in your generation, those to follow and those to follow. Education is a step. And I think education is talking about it, and it's important to talk about it, to prevent something like this from happening again. To look at these people who were used as a scapegoat in the case of the Japanese Americans, or anything else like that. I think it's just really, really important to talk about. And I'm glad we did this park. I'm glad we decided